My name is Delilah. I am 29 years old, and I live in Houston, Texas. I work as a wedding planner, a job I truly love because it lets me create beautiful beginnings for other people. My life has always been busy but steady. I learned to take care of myself at a young age, and I have always been proud of the independence I built. My husband, Stephen, is 33. He is a lawyer, smart, confident, and once, the man I believed I could trust with my whole heart. We met 10 years ago during a corporate event I was organizing. 1 year later, I married him, thinking I had finally found the partner who would walk with me through every season of life. But before Stephen, there was another part of my life that shaped me. 12 years ago, I lost both of my parents in a tragic car accident. I was only 17. My younger sister, Phoebe, was just 10. Overnight, I became her mother, her protector, her guide. I worked endlessly, sacrificed my dreams, and fought through every difficulty so she could have a future. I loved her the way a mother loves her child. For years, everything felt peaceful. But that peace began to crack the moment Stephen saw Phoebe again, beautiful, grown, and unaware of how quickly she was about to change my life. For 4 years, while Phoebe studied in New York, my life followed a peaceful rhythm. I worked long hours planning weddings, sometimes staying up past midnight just to finish a design or answer a client. Every month, I sent Phoebe money, sometimes more than I could afford, but I never complained. I wanted her to have the opportunities one never had. And each time she called, telling me about her exams, her friends, her new experiences, my heart filled with pride. I counted the days until she would finally come home. At the same time, my marriage with Stephen felt steady. We had our normal routines, dinner together after work, quiet weekends watching movies, gentle conversations about our dreams. Yes, we argued sometimes, small things, nothing serious, but I always felt loved. I trusted him completely. I trusted us. When Phoebe finally returned home at 22, she had changed. She was beautiful, confident, glowing with the energy of someone who had discovered life. I hugged her tightly, feeling grateful that all my sacrifices had been worth it. At first, everything felt perfect, a small family of 3, reunited. But little by little, I noticed Stephen watching her, longer than necessary, with a look I couldn't quite name. And Phoebe, who used to tell me everything, now kept small secrets, small silences. Nothing was wrong yet. But something deep inside me had begun to tremble. Everything began to fall apart slowly, so slowly that at first, I thought it was just my imagination. Stephen, the man who once held my hand every night, now barely looked at me. He came home later and later. When I tried to talk to him, he sighed loudly, as if my voice itself exhausted him. But when Phoebe entered the room, his face changed, lighter, softer, almost alive. I watched him laugh at her jokes, ask her questions, offer to drive her places. He had never done that for me in years. At first, I tried to ignore it. She was my sister. He was my husband. There was no way my heart could be right about what it felt. But then, one night, everything broke. Stephen walked into our bedroom, his face twisted with anger, not sadness, not confusion, but pure accusation. He pointed at me and said, "The baby you're carrying is not mine." I felt the world stop. I wasn't even pregnant. I stared at him, shocked and shaking. Why would you say that? Why would you accuse me of something so cruel? But he didn't answer. He just turned away, leaving me crying on the bed. That night, I felt something inside me tearing apart, but I still tried to hold our marriage together. I still believed we could fix things. Until the day the truth stood right in front of me. I went to the mall to buy a few things. I wasn't looking for anything except a reason to distract myself. But then I froze. Not because of what I heard, but because of what I saw. Stephen. Phoebe. Walking together. Holding hands like lovers. My legs felt weak. My throat closed. I followed them silently, praying I was wrong, desperately hoping there was a reasonable explanation. But then I saw it, inside a jewelry store, Stephen sliding a ring onto my sister's finger. A ring. My husband buying jewelry for my sister. My heart felt like it shattered into 1,000 sharp pieces. I couldn't scream. I couldn't cry. I just stood there, dying quietly. The next day, they sat together in my living room, laughing like nothing had happened. I stood at the doorway, trembling, and Stephen looked at me with cold eyes. "If you want to stay in this house," he said calmly, "you can live downstairs. Phoebe will stay upstairs." It was in that moment I realized my marriage, my trust, my family, everything, had crumbled completely. My life was falling apart, and I could do nothing except watch. The days after the truth came out felt like walking through a burning house, knowing every room held another memory I could no longer touch. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I sat for hours on the floor of my dark living room, staring at nothing. My mind kept asking the same question. What did I do wrong? Where did I fail? I had loved my husband. I had raised my sister. I had given everything I had. But suddenly, I was standing in the ruins of a life I built with my own hands. Phoebe tried to speak to me several times. She stood in the doorway, her eyes swollen, her voice shaking. But when I looked at her, I didn't see the little girl who used to sleep beside me after our parents died. I saw a stranger wearing my sister's face. One night, I woke up to the sound of crying. Phoebe was sitting on the floor outside my room, knees pulled to her chest, tears covering her face. She grabbed my hand and whispered, "I didn't know, Delilah. I didn't know things would go this far. I didn't plan any of this. Please believe me." I looked at her, really looked at her. The girl I protected for 12 years was gone, buried under guilt and foolish love. My voice broke as I said, "You didn't just steal my husband, Phoebe. You erased your own sister." She sobbed harder, reaching for me, but I backed away. In that moment, something inside me clicked, quietly, painfully, but clearly. I could no longer save this house. I could no longer save this marriage. And I could no longer save the version of Phoebe I once knew. So the next morning, I packed my bag. Phoebe ran to me, grabbed my arms, and begged, "Don't leave. This is your home. I am the one who should go. Please stay." I touched her cheek gently. "Even after everything, I still feel your pain. I still love you as my sister. But I can't live inside this hurt anymore. I must leave, not because you deserve peace, but because I deserve it. And then I walked out of the house that once felt like love, now poisoned with betrayal. Stephen watched me leave, standing with folded arms, no remorse in his eyes, only arrogance. In that moment, I finally saw the truth. He never loved me. He never loved her. He only loved himself. I lost everything that day. But for the first time, my eyes finally opened. When I left the house, I had nothing except a small suitcase and the strength I didn't know I still carried. I rented a tiny one-bedroom place on the other side of Houston. It wasn't much, peeling paint, old furniture, and a window that barely opened, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling watched or judged. With the little money I had saved, I opened a small salon. Just 2 chairs, a mirror, and a used hairdryer. I worked long hours, sometimes 12 hours a day. I swept floors, washed hair, cut styles, painted nails. Clients came slowly at first, then more and more each week. I was rebuilding not just a business, but myself. Little by little, I felt pieces of my heart returning. I learned to enjoy my own company. I learned to trust myself again. I learned that healing does not happen in one moment, it happens in quiet days, repeated again and again, until you feel whole. Stephen never contacted me again, and I never thought of him except as a distant shadow. Months passed. Then one evening, someone knocked on my door. I opened it and saw Phoebe. Her clothes were torn, her face bruised, her body shaking. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. She whispered, "You were right. He never loved me. He hurt me. Please, forgive me." My chest tightened, not in anger, but in deep, painful empathy. I held her. "I forgive you," I said softly. But this time, we rebuild our lives together, with honesty, with respect, and with love. And just like that, we began again, not as broken sisters, but as 2 women learning to stand back up. Now, when I look back, I finally understand the things I was too blind to see. Not every smile is love, and not every tear is weakness. Sometimes the person you save becomes the person who destroys you. But that doesn't mean you were wrong to love. It only means you must learn who deserves your heart. I learned that family can break you, but it can also heal you. Stephen broke me, but Phoebe, despite all her mistakes, helped me find myself again. A man who makes sisters fight is a man who deserves neither of them. For a long time, I believed love meant sacrifice, silence, and patience. But now I know the truth. Self-respect is more important than romance. No relationship is worth losing yourself. Forgiveness does not erase the past, it frees the heart from carrying its weight. And real strength does not come from pretending you're fine. It comes from standing up after the world has crushed you. Today, I am stronger, not because life was kind, but because I survived what tried to destroy me. I choose peace. I choose dignity. I choose myself. And that is the kind of love no one can ever take away from me. If you liked this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for learning English through stories with us. I hope to see you again in the next video.